Mercedes fans, this is the most important video you're going to watch this year. Why? Because this is the brand new CLA 2025. No, this isn't the concept car, this is the actual car. It's got a brand new multimedia system in there with MBUS. It's the 4th generation MBUX multimedia system, and it's even got a brand new design on the outside, new lights. Literally everything about this car is brand new, and I've got a little bit of time with this car today, so let's check it out. So the first thing that draws my eyes is the front grille. This has 142 illuminated Mercedes-Benz stars, and you'll know from the reviews that I've done before that Mercedes-Benz love to put stars all over the front, and now they've made them illuminated, so rather interesting. In fact, there's actually over 150 stars across the whole car. Yeah, I might have to count them one day, but yeah, there's a lot of them. Also new as well, there's new lights. So these actually have multi-beam LED. And I know what you're thinking, why is it not digital light? Basically, due to the size of the light cluster, apparently they might have done a few improvements to the multi-beam system in here, but they've actually got new kind of star design lights on the front now. So yes, even more logos in the stars. Just you wait till you see the rear as well. Now also as well, there's a light bar. So yes, Mercedes-Benz have gone with a light bar on this one. And there's also a frunk, which we'll look at in a minute. But yeah, I'll save that for in a few minutes' time. Now, as I said, I don't think you know how important this car is. Let's just cast our minds back to 2018. This is when Mercedes-Benz brought out the A-Class, and it is a phenomenal car back then. And even, to be honest, still is amazing today with those gorgeous dual screen displays. Just you wait till you see what the CLA's got. But back to the A-Class, that's when the MBUX came out, and that's when this trend kind of came out with digital instrument clusters in Mercedes. It was just revolutionary for its time. The fact that brought out a new multimedia system in 2018, and it's still really good today. There's a new one that I mentioned with MBUS and the 4th gen MBUX. Can't wait to show you guys that in a minute. Now, for those of you wondering with the dimensions, yes, this one is slightly longer than the previous model. So if you're curious, it's 61mm longer wheelbase and 29mm higher roofline. Now, one of the most interesting views of this car is actually its side, and what Mercedes call the character line. That's this middle line that goes along here, but notice it actually disappears in the middle of the car, but is very, very angular on the rear and of course on the front. But yeah, in the middle here, it's almost reminding me of the electric cars that Mercedes have at the moment, like EQE and EQS, although this is a completely different model. And it does have pop-in and pop-out handles as well for aerodynamics. Now, the rear on the CLA looks a little bit different, well, should I say completely different to the model before. Look at these lights here. So they are very circular, and they have also taken a little bit of inspiration from the Mercedes-Benz E-Class, which has that design in the actual lights. And I'm loving this sort of like Knight Rider look on the back here. Maybe I'm showing my age here if I talk about that, but I do remember seeing it on TV. But yeah, it looks really, really aggressive here, and definitely in certain colors, as you can see here. It really, really does look quite aggressive on the back. Usually the aggressive looks of cars are usually on the front, but I'm really, really liking this. Now, as I mentioned, this is the electric version. So believe it or not, Mercedes have actually put a frunk in here, or fruit, before any of you in the comments decide to correct me, because yes, it is referred to both, but I'm going to call it a frunk because that sounds, I think it sounds a little bit better than fruit. But yeah, look at the size of this. You can put like a proper hold-all bag in there. It's actually just over 100 litres, 101 litres to be precise. But yeah, that's a decent size. In fact, believe it or not, Mercedes did actually have a frunk years and years ago on a car from many, many years ago. It was a classic car. But yeah, it's interesting to see that they have done this for the first time in their EVs, because in all the others, they've just put very fancy air filters or lots of components. But yeah, I think the storage there is pretty useful. Let's take a look at the inside. Alright guys, now this is the bit that I'm most excited about. Look at this awesome design on the inside. It kind of almost puts the Mercedes EQS to shame. If you guys have seen that, that's the one with the hyper screen with the massive screen. This is now in a CLA. That's really cool. Now, I know what you're thinking. Some of you are going to say, well, hang on, Nick, you've probably got the one with all the gadgets here. Yeah, I do. But I did ask the question and find out what would happen if you went for one with a standard kind of package and equipment list. And believe it or not much changes. So if you notice here, there are 3 screens. You've got the instrument cluster, multimedia system, and then there's also a passenger display. So if you go for a standard one, the screen is actually just replaced by all these illuminated Mercedes logos, as you see here. So yeah, I actually wouldn't mind that one personally, because I mean, I'd never really have anyone in the passenger seat. So just having these 2, you know, front and center is pretty cool. I don't think I'd need that one. But, you know, if you're going for a certain package, which I'm sure we'll see in a few months' time, you may want to opt for it, so you never know. Now, the big part of this car is, of course, the central screen here. Now, I would love to run through this and just press every button and go through it, but I'm very limited on time here today, so this is almost like a first impressions. So, Mercedes-Benz announced this about a year ago at the CES Consumer Electronics Show, and this is where they announced MB.OS and the new MB.UX, and we can finally see it here, you know, with all the covers off. And here it is. Look how quick and responsive this is. Now you may notice for the keen-eye viewer, it says Google Maps down there. And I asked this question, it's not the Google Maps that you and I know from CarPlay or from using it on your phone. Basically, Google Maps is running on the entirety of the system here with POIs and mapping and that sort of thing in there, but then Mercedes-Benz put their own kind of design on the front. So technically it is Google Maps, it's just it might look a little bit different. Now, in terms of everything else, as I said, I can't run through everything here today, but you notice here there's a menu bar along the bottom, seat adjustments, climate control. So some of these kind of inspirations and designs are taken from the E-Class, which I've reviewed before. You've got similar buttons down here, but a completely different revised layout here. And as I said, so responsive. Might get a game of Angry Birds in a minute. Now for the keen-eye viewer, you'll also notice on the top right-hand corner there is a glowing orb, and this is the new voice assistant. Although what Mercedes are calling it, they're calling it the new virtual assistant, because it now, instead of being wavy lines or floating stars, it now has this kind of emblem, which of course is another Mercedes logo. So now on this one, hey Mercedes.
How can I help?
How are you doing today?
All the better for hearing your voice.
Now you'll notice here she's actually glowing green at the moment. Apparently, if you're annoyed or angry, it can pick up on that tone and then start to show you different colours. Apparently, I'll have to test this out when it's actually out in the UK. But no, you can do an abundance of things on here. This has ChatGPT integration as well, so there's lots of AI enhancements in here, which I will, of course, have to delve into when I've got a bit more time with it. Another thing from a design point of view, we have a new steering wheel here. It looks very similar. It is all touch, so obviously things to factor in that Mercedes are sticking with that touch system. But having said that, I do have a very similar style steering wheel, but there are different buttons here in different placements. So of course, I am sat in a left-hand drive car. We'll have to see again what that's like when it's right-hand drive. Let me know what the correct one is in the comments below. But yeah, they have slightly different indentations here and different buttons. So I think these are actually slightly larger than before, and they have like a line across here, which might make it easier to use when you're focusing on driving and not having to look down as much. Might be a bit of muscle memory on there. Now, when it comes to everything else, the build quality in here is really impressive. Now, as I said, I haven't had that long with the car, but everything I've touched so far, I mean, even these elements here, obviously this is a certain trim. We may or may not get this here. This has like this whitish leather on the outside here with this sort of suede material. It's like half mixture of all white on the door here. So we'll have to see what trims we get when it comes out in the UK, but I quite like it actually. It looks really good. There's a couple of other cars here, so I'll show you what these look like on the inside as well. And of course there is the petrol version as well, which isn't going to be coming out just yet. That's going to be apparently later this year, early next year. We'll have to see. So Mercedes are just releasing the 2 electric ones first. But all these gadgets, even if you just went for the petrol one, and you know, in the future, looks really cool. Now, I did mention the dimensions earlier, and one key point is that the car is 61mm longer in its wheelbase, and that length directly translates to the rear seats. So I've actually set that driving position up for, you know, how I would drive. I did set it up very quickly though, but I mean, I'd say that legroom looks pretty good so far. So again, we'll have to test it out when it's actually out. But yeah, I've got to say the headroom's pretty good as well, and that panoramic roof looks incredible. Doesn't look like there's a blind though, but the fact it doesn't open means that there's probably that additional headroom. So yeah, looks rather fancy, and apparently standard equipment. I didn't think I'd see that coming. So again, we'll have to see when it's out, you know, in a few months' time. But yeah, apparently it's going to be standard equipment. All right, Mercedes. I think you're going to sell quite a few of these. They're certainly looks very, very impressive. Okay, so what's available at launch, you know, at the time of you watching this video? Basically, there's a CLA 250 and a CLA 350. Both are of course electric, but the key difference here is that the CLA 350 has 4MATIC. They both will have an 85.5 kilowatt hour battery, 0 to 60, 6.7 seconds and 4.9 seconds. Now range is the most important one here, as these are electric cars, and this is where I think Mercedes-Benz shine. 694 kilometers to 792 for the CLA 250, and for the CLA 350, 670 to 770. Of course, this is the current values based on WLTP and in kilometers, so converted them all to miles for you. But that is incredible. And even the charging speed as well is around 300 kilowatts from what I've heard. Again, all this is going to have to be tested on its official review. I'm hoping to do later this year. Now, while I was there in Germany, Mercedes not only showed me all the aspects of the car in detail, from their signature design choice on the grille, and of course their newly designed lights for the front, completely expanded out, and including the rear as well. They also showed me the different generations of multimedia system that they have, right up to the 4th generation found in this car here. Then they also showed me some top secret things. So while I had another Apple Vision headset strapped to my face, they also showed me the future of their product lineup. This is the CLA, but then they also have a couple of other shapes in the works closely related to the tech found in this car. Basically, 2026 and beyond is going to be a very big year for Mercedes, so we'll have to wait and see what they bring out. But before we go anywhere, there are a couple more here to show you. Now, just before we go, look at this one. This is in, of course, the matte grey, which I believe is most likely going to be selenite grey metallic or something along those lines anyway. I quite like this one, although I don't think I'd go for the brown seats on the inside and the gold. Again, we don't know if this sort of specification is going to come to the UK, but it is cool to see. We'll have to see, of course, what comes to the UK. What will be coming to the UK, though, is that car there. Yes, this car here is the petrol version, so I'll show you the grille in a little bit more detail in just a second, but I can't wait to test this one because this one apparently is a self-regenerative hybrid. I don't know what Mercedes-Benz are going to call it yet. Apparently it has like a 1 kilowatt hour battery, and yeah, although it's got the hybrid name, there's no plug-in element to it. So I'm curious to see how far you can run on electric and kind of all that stuff works. Again, probably another video on Dynamic Select to see how all the components work in this car. But just before we end, let's have a look at the grille at the front. So yes, look at this grille here. Now, again, I don't know what the specs are going to be like when it comes to the UK, but on this one here, there is in fact a light bar. There's also a light going around the outside of the grille here, but no illuminated badge or anything like that. I think just to kind of differentiate it between the electric version we saw just a moment ago. I don't know, I think the electric grille is growing on me with all those illuminated stars. I don't know how much attention it would draw on the road, but yeah, we'll have to see. You have to let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below on your favourite one and which one you would go for. Let me know your thoughts as well on the new style lights on the CLA. But yes, guys, there we go. That concludes the first impressions of the CLA, the electric one, and of course, the one behind me just over here. Let me know which one you might consider, and of course, what you'd like me to test on the full review later this year. Guys, thanks so much for watching. Until next time, see you then.